Have you ever wondered why some people lose respect, privacy, and even influence in their families after they cross 65? Why is it that the very same people who once guided everyone suddenly find themselves ignored, or worse, taken advantage of? Before we dive into this, let me ask you something important. Do you want to protect your dignity, your relationships, and the love you've built over a lifetime? If yes, then stay with me till the very end of this video, because what I'm about to share can completely change not just how your family sees you, but also how your love life, yes, even after 65, can remain strong, warm, and respected. And hey, if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and make sure you watch till the end, because each of these 7 points is a key you need to safeguard your peace and happiness. Now let's get into it. This is a comprehensive guide to never share these 7 private matters with family after 65. Number 1, your financial secrets. Picture this. You're sitting in your favorite chair, enjoying a peaceful afternoon, when one of your children casually asks, "Dad, how much do you have saved up? Do you still get that pension every month? And what about that land? Have you thought about dividing it yet?" It sounds innocent, right? After all, they're your family. They might not even mean any harm. But the moment you start opening up about your exact financial situation, every saving, every account, every asset, you step into dangerous territory. Why? Because money, no matter how much love exists in a family, has a way of shifting relationships. The very moment your financial cards are on the table, people start to see you differently. If you say you don't have much, they may begin to worry and try to control your choices. "Dad, don't spend too much on gifts. You need to save that for later." Suddenly, even buying a nice meal for yourself becomes something you feel guilty about. On the other hand, if you reveal that you've done well for yourself, a different problem arises. You may find subtle expectations creeping in. "Mom, since you have that money, can you help us with this?" Or worse, family members may begin competing in their minds for a bigger share of your inheritance. What once was pure love now becomes quietly influenced by numbers and expectations. And here's the most painful part. Sometimes it's not even intentional. Even the most loving children, grandchildren, or siblings may unconsciously let money cloud the way they see you. They may not even realize it, but it begins to happen. Respect slowly shifts from being based on who you are to being tied to what you have. That's why after 65, your finances should remain private. Not because you don't trust your family, but because protecting your independence is protecting your dignity. Think of your financial privacy as a shield. Behind that shield, you remain free to live, free to make decisions without fear of judgment or expectation. This doesn't mean you keep everything hidden forever. Of course, there are documents and plans like wills, medical directives, or property matters that need to be clear to avoid confusion later. But those are the exceptions, not the rule. The day-to-day details of your bank account, your savings, your investments, those are for you to know. Let me tell you a quick story. An older gentleman, Mr. Ahmed, shared openly with his children about the money he had saved. He thought it would give them peace of mind. Instead, within a year, one child was constantly asking for financial help, while the others grew suspicious about whether he was being fair in how he supported them. What began as love and trust turned into conflict and silent tension. His peace of mind gone. Contrast that with another elder, Mrs. Fatima. She kept her finances private but made sure her will and legal documents were organized and stored safely. Her family respected her independence, never burdened her with money talk, and when the time came, everything was already clear and fair. She lived her later years with dignity, not with arguments about money swirling around her. That's the power of keeping your financial matters private. So as you cross 65, remember this truth. Money is not just paper or numbers, it is control. It is independence and it is dignity. Guard it wisely, and you'll find that your family loves you for who you are, not for what you have or don't have. Number 2, past regrets and mistakes. Close your eyes for a moment and think back to your younger years. Maybe you were in your 20s, full of fire and passion. Maybe you took risks, made choices with your heart instead of your head. Perhaps you failed in business, lost a friendship, or hurt someone you loved. Maybe you even lived with secrets, an affair you regret, a dream you abandoned, or words you wish you could take back. Now fast forward to 65. You sit with your family, surrounded by children and grandchildren. A thought crosses your mind. Should I tell them? Should I confess my mistakes so they know who I really am? It's tempting, isn't it? You feel that sharing regrets might lighten your burden. But here's the truth. Sometimes telling everything doesn't heal you. It only wounds the ones who hear it. Let me give you an example. A man named Khalid, at 68, told his grown children about an affair he had in his 40s. He thought he was being honest, thought it would help them understand the pain he carried. But instead, his children began to look at him differently. Respect was shaken. They no longer saw their father as the strong, loyal man they had always admired. Even though the mistake was decades old, the hurt felt fresh to them. What Khalid thought was confession turned into confusion, and it left a scar on their relationship. You see, regrets are heavy stones. When you share them, you don't throw the stone away. You pass it into the hands of your loved ones, and often they are not strong enough to carry it. Now, does that mean you should bury your regrets completely? Not at all. Regrets hold valuable lessons. The key is in how you share them. Instead of telling every painful detail, transform them into wisdom. For example, instead of saying, "I betrayed your mother once," you could say, "I learned that loyalty is sacred. Never take the trust of someone who loves you for granted." Instead of saying, "I lost everything in a failed business deal," you could say, "I learned that money comes and goes, but family is what lasts." Do you see the difference? One way leaves scars, the other leaves wisdom. At 65, your role in the family is not to pour out your wounds, but to shine as a source of guidance. Your children and grandchildren don't need to know every shadow of your past. What they need is the light you carried out of it. There's also something powerful about keeping certain regrets between you and your Creator, or between you and your private reflections. Because some mistakes are not meant to be relived. They are meant to teach you, humble you, and remind you to cherish the present. So here's the truth. Your past regrets are not gifts to give your family. They are lessons to transform into wisdom. Protect their love for you by giving them the fruit of your journey, not the thorns. Number 3, your private love life. Imagine this. You're sitting at the dinner table with your children, maybe even your grandchildren, and the topic of relationships comes up. You're tempted to share stories about the arguments you've had with your partner, the struggles you've faced in intimacy, or the loneliness you sometimes feel. After all, they're family, right? Shouldn't they know everything? But here's the truth, your love life, especially after 65, deserves its own sacred boundary. Why? Because love in the later years is different. It's more tender, more fragile, and more private than most people realize. And when you expose it too much, you risk having it misunderstood, judged, or even disrespected. Let me give you an example. There was a woman named Aisha, 70 years old, who often told her children about the arguments she had with her husband. She felt it was safe to vent. After all, they were her children, and she thought they would understand. But slowly her children began to take sides. Some sympathized with her, others resented their father, and family gatherings became filled with silent tension. What started as an innocent sharing of frustrations ended up breaking the harmony of her family. Now think about this. What happens if you share details of your private intimacy? At 65, society often assumes you no longer have those desires, as if age erases your need for companionship, affection, and closeness. But you and I both know that's not true. Love, tenderness, even attraction, they don't disappear. They simply evolve. Yet, when you begin to share those private aspects openly with family, it creates discomfort. Your children may not see you as a romantic being anymore. They may only want to see you as mom or dad. Grandchildren may even laugh or gossip about it. And in a moment, the dignity of your love life, something that should be cherished, turns into a family discussion that robs it of its sacredness. There's another danger too. Suppose you're widowed or divorced and you've found a new partner. At 65, it can feel natural to explain every detail, how you met, why you need them, what your bond is like. But the more details you share, the more space you give for opinions, judgments, and sometimes even disapproval. Suddenly, instead of enjoying the companionship you've earned, you're defending it. So what's the wiser path? Keep the depth of your love life between you and your partner. Share joy, share wisdom, but protect the privacy of your bond. For example, instead of telling your children, "Your father and I argued about intimacy," you can say, "Marriage has taught me that patience and kindness matter more with age." Instead of saying, "I feel lonely in my nights," you can say, Cherish companionship when you have it. It's the most valuable gift in life. See, this way you protect the beauty of your love life while still guiding your family with lessons they can apply. Remember this, your love life at 65 and beyond isn't something to be exposed, it's something to be honored. And sometimes the most powerful love is the love the world doesn't see but only you and your partner feel. Protect that, and you protect one of the greatest treasures of your later years. Number 4, health struggles in detail. Picture this. You're sitting with your children, and they ask, "How's your health these days?" You pause, and suddenly, without realizing it, you begin to list everything. Your back pain, your medications, your sleepless nights, your fears about what the doctor said, even the thought that things may get worse. It feels good to let it out. After all, they're your family. But here's the danger. You've just shifted the atmosphere in the room. The smiles turn into frowns. The lightness disappears. And in their hearts, your children no longer see you as the strong parent they grew up admiring. They see you as fragile, as a burden, as someone who is slowly fading. Now, let me be clear. Your family should know about your health, but there's a fine line between sharing enough for them to support you and overwhelming them with the intimate details of your struggles. Let me tell you a story. A man named Bashir at 67 had developed a serious heart condition. Every time his children called, he went into detail about his chest pain, the side effects of his medicines, and his constant fears of dying. He thought he was being honest. But slowly his children began to dread calling him. Conversations became heavy, filled with fear instead of love. What he wanted was comfort, but what he created was distance. On the other hand, there was another woman, Yasmin, 72 years old, who had arthritis. She didn't hide it from her children. She told them what they needed to know so they could support her. But she didn't pour out every ache and every worry. Instead, when they asked how she was doing, she often said, "I have pain, yes, but I'm learning to manage it. Don't worry, I still have a lot of life in me." Her children admired her strength, respected her courage, and still enjoyed light-hearted moments with her. Her health didn't overshadow her identity. Do you see the difference? One approach builds pity and fear, the other builds respect and support. At 65 and beyond, your role in the family is still vital. You are more than your diagnosis. If all you share is weakness, your family begins to see you only through the lens of illness. But if you balance honesty with hope, they continue to see you as a guide, a source of wisdom, someone to admire. Here's the rule of thumb. Share what is necessary for your care, but keep your deepest fears and worst-case scenarios private. Discuss those with your doctor, a close confidant, or even a journal. But don't hand those fears to your children. They aren't meant to carry that weight. Because here's the truth, your family wants to see you hopeful. They need to feel that you're still strong enough to stand with them, not just lean on them. When you show courage, even in sickness, you give them a gift far greater than health. You give them peace of mind. So remember, after 65, let your health be known, but don't let it define you. Your family deserves your strength more than your suffering. Number 5, family conflicts and secrets of others. Let me ask you this. How many secrets do you carry about your family? At 65, you've seen it all. Arguments between siblings, betrayals in marriages, financial disputes, hidden mistakes that were never spoken of openly. It's almost like you've become the family's living archive of secrets. Now, here's where many elders make a mistake. They believe that age gives them the right to reveal everything. They sit with their children or grandchildren and say things like, you know, your uncle once cheated your aunt, or your cousin stole money from the family business, or even, your father almost left your mother years ago. But here's the truth. Once those words leave your mouth, they cannot be taken back. And often, what you think is just sharing ends up poisoning relationships for generations. Let me share a story. There was a man named Javid, 70 years old, who told his granddaughter that her father once had a serious falling out with his brother over money. Javid thought he was teaching her about greed and the importance of family unity. But what actually happened? The granddaughter began to look at her father differently. Doubt crept in. Respect weakened. What was once a strong father-daughter bond now carried the shadow of suspicion. Contrast that with another elder, Mrs. Salima. She too knew many family secrets. She had seen her siblings fight. She knew of mistakes her children had made, but she carried those stories with discretion. Instead of exposing individuals, she turned lessons into wisdom. She would say things like, "Greed always destroys relationships," or, in marriage, "Forgiveness is more powerful than pride." She shared the principles without naming the guilty. As a result, her family listened, learned, and loved her more deeply. You see, at 65 and beyond, your words carry enormous weight. You may think you're just being honest, but to your family, your voice is like a stamp of truth. Once you reveal a secret, it can't be unseen. Siblings can begin resenting each other. Children can start doubting parents, and cousins can turn against cousins. And guess what? You become the one who planted that seed of division. Does that mean you should never talk about mistakes? Not at all. Mistakes are where wisdom lives. But the art is in separating the lesson from the identity. Share the wisdom without exposing the wound. Teach values, not scandals. Because when you protect the privacy of others, you also protect the unity of your family. Think of it this way: a family is like a house. Every secret you expose is like knocking out a brick. One brick might not collapse the house, but take out enough and soon the roof caves in. And once it does, rebuilding trust is almost impossible. So after 65, guard your tongue like a treasure chest. Keep others' secrets safe, even if they've hurt you in the past. Choose wisdom over gossip, protection over exposure. Because your silence can preserve harmony, while your words can destroy it forever. Number 6, your willingness to sacrifice your independence. One of the most dangerous signs that someone is only using you is when you slowly begin to let go of your independence just to keep them around. It often doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual erosion. At first, it looks harmless. You cancel a plan with your friends because they wanted to see you. You stop going to the gym because they complained that you don't spend enough time with them. You even let go of certain hobbies, passions, or dreams because somewhere deep down, you're afraid if I don't bend, they might leave. And that's the trap. Because love is not supposed to demand that you shrink yourself to fit into someone else's world. A healthy connection doesn't require you to give up your freedom. It encourages you to expand it. Yet when you're with someone who only uses you, they'll never celebrate your independence. Why? Because your strength threatens their control. Picture this. You've always wanted to start a small business. Maybe something creative, something you're passionate about. You finally muster the courage to share this dream with them, expecting excitement or support. Instead, they roll their eyes, dismiss it as unrealistic, and quickly shift the conversation back to their own needs. At that moment, a part of you shrinks. You stop dreaming out loud. You stop trying. And little by little, your independence is sacrificed, not because you wanted to, but because you were made to feel that keeping them was more important than keeping yourself. The cruel reality is this: once you give up your independence for someone who doesn't truly care about you, they don't respect you more, they respect you less. Why? Because deep down, they know you're willing to give up the very essence of who you are just to please them. That doesn't create love. It creates dependency. And dependency is exactly where people who use others want you to be, because it makes you easier to control. But let me remind you of something powerful. Your independence is not a threat to love. It is the foundation of it. The right person will not only respect your dreams, your freedom, and your individuality, they will celebrate it. They will say, "Go chase that goal. I'm proud of you. I'll be here cheering you on." That's what real connection looks like. So if you find yourself sacrificing your independence, step back and ask yourself, is this love or am I being used? Because the moment you reclaim your freedom, your voice, and your identity, you reclaim your worth. And trust me, the right people, the ones who truly care, will never demand that you lose yourself just to keep them. Number 7, your inner fear about death. As we grow older, especially after the age of 65, one thought begins to visit us more often: the awareness of death. It's not something we enjoy talking about, yet it lingers quietly in the background. For some, it comes in the middle of the night, when the house is silent and the mind starts racing. How much time do I have left? What will happen to me when I'm gone? Will I be remembered? Will it hurt? These are deeply personal fears, private whispers of the soul. And while it's normal to carry them, one mistake many people make is exposing these fears to family members who may not understand, or worse, who may misuse them. Here's why. When you reveal your fear of death to someone who only thinks in practical terms, they might brush it off. "Oh, don't talk like that. You'll be fine." But those words don't calm your heart. They silence it. You don't feel heard, you feel dismissed. Even more painfully, there are times when people can weaponize your vulnerability. Imagine sharing your fear with a relative hoping for comfort, but instead they respond with, "Well, that's why you should hand over your assets now, so things don't get messy later." Suddenly, your private fear has been turned into leverage. This is why protecting your inner dialogue about death is so important. Your fears around mortality are sacred. They deserve compassion, not exploitation. Think about it. Death is the one reality none of us can escape. It is universal, yet how we face it is deeply individual. Some find peace in faith, others in philosophy, and some in simply appreciating the time they still have. But one thing is certain, broadcasting your inner fears to the wrong audience can make them heavier, not lighter. Instead, what if you carried those fears to a journal, a trusted friend who has shown real empathy, or even a counselor who understands the weight of mortality? What if, instead of giving away your private fears to people who might use them against you, you turned them into motivation to live more fully in the present moment? Because here's the truth. Fear of death is often just fear of not having lived enough. Think back to a time when you laughed uncontrollably, when you felt completely alive, when you loved without hesitation. That's where your focus should be, not on counting days, but on filling them with meaning. Your inner fear about death should push you toward life, not bind you with anxiety. So if you're tempted to open up about your fears, pause and ask, will this person hold my heart gently, or will they treat it carelessly? If the answer is uncertain, keep that part of yourself sacred. Your fear of death isn't something to be shared casually, it's something to be honored privately, understood deeply, and transformed into courage to live the rest of your days with dignity and peace. So let's recap. After 65, guard these 7 things with care. Your financial secrets, your past regrets, your private love life, the heavy details of your health, family conflicts and other secrets, your independence, and your deepest fears about death. Protecting these isn't about mistrust. It's about wisdom. It's about maintaining respect, dignity, and love in the years when they matter most. Because the truth is, family bonds grow stronger when you share wisely, not carelessly, and love, whether romantic, parental, or grandparental, thrives when it is nurtured with privacy, dignity, and trust. So if you're at that stage of life, or if you're preparing for it, remember this. Some things are meant to be shared, but others are meant to be guarded, treasured, and carried within. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.